Happy New Year and welcome to a virtual meeting of the Allen Park Board of Education. Please know administration and members of the Board of Education carefully considered meeting in person versus a virtual meeting this evening. While on October 3rd, the Michigan Supreme Court ruled that Governor Whitmer lacked the authority to declare a state of emergency under the Emergency Management Act on October 5th, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services issued an emergency order restricting gathering sizes, requiring face coverings in public spaces, and placed limitations on venues. The limitations on the size of an indoor gathering is noted as only 20% of the normal capacity in a venue with fixed seating. On December 22nd, Public Act 254 of 2020 was passed to further extend the allowance to meet remotely without restrictions. In order to meet the capacity limitations, if our regular meeting was held in the high school's LGI room, we could only have 18 audience members. If held in the auditorium, we would be able to accommodate 98 audience members on the main floor and 30 in the balcony. Given the high interest level in return to in-person learning plans and other topics, our last Board of Education meeting had 315 viewers. It would be problematic to turn anyone away from a public meeting as it infringes on their rights under the Open Meetings Act. And that would be a distinct possibility given the capacity limitations compared to the average Zoom viewers from recent meetings. Over the past several months, viewers have ranged from 266 concurrent viewers to up to 897 viewers. The board appreciates the interest and participation of the community. For these reasons, the board opted for a virtual meeting again this evening. During these challenging times, our school community continues to stay strong. On behalf of my colleagues, new and old, we appreciate and value your interest, passion, and input. Please continue to keep your focus on taking care of yourselves, your families, and each other. This evening, citizens who wish to express public comments may do so by accessing the online citizens comment form located on the district website. The homepage has a link that will lead you to the form as well as to this evening's agenda. Your comments or questions pertaining to an agenda item will be read during item number 9. Comments or questions pertaining to non-agenda items will be read during item number 14. Comment forms will be accepted up until that time of the meeting. Prior to this meeting, board members and presenters ran a test of the system. Please note that no business took place. It was merely a technology test. And with that, I would ask everyone to join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Radowski, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Filipiak.
Here.
Mr. Klein.
I'm here.
Mrs. Lukey.
Here.
Mrs. McDonald.
Here.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
And Dr. Warren.
Still last here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And two new names there. Before we proceed on to the oath, I do want to extend a warm welcome to two people who are certainly bound to be wonderful and important contributors to this Board of Education. Mrs. Laura Lukey and Mr. Stephen Martin. Thank you for your interest in being on the board, for running a competitive and good election, and for being here into the future for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll need to issue oath of office to be administered to new and newly elected board members, and congratulations shared with them. Mr. Radowski, will you take it from here?
Yes, good evening. We will start with Mrs. Lukey. Laura M. Lukey, do you accept the office of member of the Board of Education of Allen Park Public Schools, Wayne County, Michigan?
I do.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of member of the Board of Education
of the office of member of Board of Education
of the Allen Park Public School District, Wayne County, Michigan,
of the Allen Park Public School District, Wayne County, Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mrs. Lukey, if you have family members that would like to get in the frame there with you, you're more than welcome to invite them on screen.
They were there.
Hello,
Thank you.
thanks for lending us your mom's song.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dotsky. On to Mr. Martin.
Yes, Stephen D. Martin, do you accept the office of member of the Board of Education of Allen Park Public Schools, Wayne County, Michigan?
I do.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of member of the Board of Education
of the office of member of the Board of Education
of Allen Park Public Schools, Wayne County, Michigan,
of Allen Park Public Schools, Wayne County, Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And likewise, Mr. Martin, thank you. And to your family, some familiar faces behind you there. Welcome. Thank you for lending your husband to us and your dad there. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
And now we'll move to a group format with our three incumbents, Sarah C. Filipiak, Gordon A. Miller, and Dr. Jennifer Warren. Do you accept the office of member of the Board of Education of Allen Park Public Schools, Wayne County, Michigan?
I do.
Yes.
Please raise your right hand, and if you could repeat as well as you can together after me. I do solemnly swear
I do
solemnly
solemnly
swear
swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That
that
I
that
will
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the
and the
Constitution
Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of member of the Board of Education
of the office of member of the Board of Education
of Allen Park Public Schools, Wayne County, Michigan,
of Allen
of
Park
Allen Park Public Schools, Wayne
Wayne
County, Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, and congratulations to Dr. Warren and Mrs. Flipiak. And with that, we'll move on to item 5 in our agenda. The election of officers is held at the first meeting in January to coincide with the date of any scheduled elections terms of office from the preceding November. All offices of the Board of Education are hereby declared open, and the floor is now open for nominations for the office of president.
I nominate Gordon Miller for President of the Board of Education. Mr. Miller, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Are there any further nominations for this office? Hearing none, the floor is closed for nominations. I move that Gordon Miller be named President of the Allen Park Board of Education.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Motion carried. It is hereby declared that Gordon Miller has been elected President of the Board of Education for the 2021 calendar year. Congratulations, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you to my colleagues, This is obviously always a group and team effort, so we do this together. Thank you very much. We'll move on. We'll open the floor for nominations for Vice President of Teaching and Learning. I nominate Jeanette McDonald for Vice President of Teaching and Learning of the Board of Education. Mrs. McDonald, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Are there any further nominations for this office? Hearing none, the floor is closed for nominations. I move that Jeanette McDonald be named Vice President of Teaching and Learning of the Allen Park Board of Education.
Support.
All right, been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. It is hereby declared that Jeanette McDonald has been elected Vice President of Teaching and Learning of the Board of Education for the 2021 calendar year. Congratulations, Mrs. McDonald.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we'll open up nominations for Vice President of Operations. I nominate Michael Klein for Vice President of Operations of the Board of Education. Mr. Klein, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Are there any further nominations for this office? Hearing none, the floor is closed for nominations. I move that Michael Klein be named Vice President of Operations of the Allen Park Board of Education.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. It is hereby declared that Michael Klein has been elected Vice President of Operations of the Board of Education for the 2021 calendar year. Congratulations and thank you, Mr. Klein.
Thank you.
We'll open the floor for nominations for Vice President of Human Resources. I nominate Laura Lukey for Vice President of Human Resources of the Board of Education. Mrs. Lukey, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Are there any further nominations for this office? Hearing none, the floor is closed for nominations. I move that Laura Lukey be named Vice President of Human Resources of the Allen Park Board of Education. Maybe I didn't hear anything. Is there support for that?
Support.
Support.
Okay, been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. It is hereby declared that Laura Lukey has been elected Vice President of Human Resources of the Board of Education for the 2021 calendar year. Congratulations, Mrs. Lukey. We'll open up nominations for Vice President of Extracurricular Issues. I nominate Stephen Martin for Vice President of Extracurricular Issues of the Board of Education. Mr. Martin, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Are there any further nominations for this office? Hearing none, the floor is closed for nominations. I move that Stephen Martin be named Vice President of Extracurricular Issues of the Allen Park Board of Education.
Support.
Okay, been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. It is hereby declared that Stephen Martin has been elected Vice President of Extracurricular Issues of the Board of Education for the 2021 calendar year. Congratulations and thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
And we'll open the floor up for nominations for Secretary. I nominate Sarah Flipiak for Secretary of the Board of Education. Mrs. Flipiak, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Are there any further nominations for this office? Hearing none, the floor is closed for nominations. I move that Sarah Flipiak be named Secretary of the Allen Park Board of Education.
Support.
All right, been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. It is hereby declared that Sarah Flipiak has been elected Secretary of the Board of Education for the 2021 calendar year. Thank you and congratulations, Mrs. Flipiak. And lastly, we'll open up nominations for Treasurer. I nominate Dr. Jennifer Warren for Treasurer of the Board of Education. Dr. Warren, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Are there any further nominations for this office? Hearing none, the floor is closed for nominations. I move that Dr. Jennifer Warren be named Treasurer of the Allen Park Board of Education.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. It is hereby declared that Dr. Jennifer Warren has been elected treasurer of the Board of Education for the 2021 calendar year. Mr. Darga, I'll turn it over to you.
I'd like to welcome and congratulate our newly appointed board members, Laura Lukey and Mr. Stephen Martin. And I'd also like to congratulate our re-elected board members, Sarah Flipiak, Gordon Miller, and Dr. Jennifer Warren, and thank them for their continued support and service to the Allen Park School community. The insight, concern, and well-being of students and professional experiences of these civic-minded individuals will be contributed significantly to the Allen Park Public Schools, and we are grateful for their willingness to serve. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Darga. And again, congratulations to everyone. Looking forward to kicking off a brand new year here. And hopefully we'll be back in live and in person before too long with these board meetings. I know all of us would like that. So we look forward to the future. Moving forward to item 6 on our agenda, approval of the consent agenda items, which includes approval of tonight's agenda, approval of meeting minutes for December 14th, approval of registers for December 11th, December 18th, December 22nd, and January 4th.
Support.
I didn't hear him move. Did somebody move on that?
Motion.
Support.
There's a motion, there's support. There we go. Anyone have any commentary or questions regarding the consent agenda?
No.
Hearing none, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, moving on to item 7, President's Communications. That we did receive a communication. I believe Dr. Warren has a copy of that communication. She's volunteered to read that this evening. We'll turn the floor over to you, Ms. Warren. Dr. Warren.
Hi, thank you. I just got a card in the mail from the Lindemann staff. So it says simply grateful. And when you open it up, it says, "Dear school board members, thank you so much for your hard work and dedication to our students, our staff, and our community. We appreciate all your efforts. Happy School Board Appreciation. Sincerely, the staff at Lindemann Elementary."
Thank you, Dr. Warren, and thank you for that, staff of elementary. Appreciate it. Moving on to item 8, reading communications. Mrs. Flipiak.
I have no communications to read at this time, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Item 9, citizens' comments related to this evening's agenda. We'll turn it over to Dr. Tefelsky.
Yes, we have citizens' comments related to this evening's agenda. The first one is from Jacqueline Kozakowski. "I would like to know why there has been very little talk as to when the schools will reopen. My children lay around on computers all day long. They can't play sports and they can't socialize with their peers on a daily basis. This is affecting their mental and physical health. I am hoping you can take into consideration what the governor and doctor said about in-person learning options by March 1st. If you keep following the infection rate rolling calendar, they will never go back to school. I have stepchildren in the Riverview district and they have went face-to-face the entire year with no issues. They were given an option. Can Allen Park come up with a plan to give us an option? Enough is enough." Next one is from David Brown. "I think all kids should be back in school ASAP. I also believe the school board should configure a new system of deciding whether or not the kids will be in school. This 5% stuff isn't working. It was a terrible idea from the beginning. I'm not sure about other kids, but my kids are struggling. I feel parents who wanted the kids back in school never had a voice, even back when they did the survey in the summer. The results weren't presented clearly, and personally, I felt lied to. I truly hope you realize that this is hurting these kids by keeping them home. I'm curious how many teachers see so many black boxes on Zoom, kids sleeping, kids taking multiple breaks during class. School was never designed to be taken from a computer. It's almost been a year. I truly hope you consider the kids going back in January. Thank you." Samantha DeVos. Samantha, I'm sorry if I got that name wrong. "My son was recently diagnosed with ADHD and is severely behind in kindergarten with online learning. I'm very afraid he won't be able to move up a grade come fall if this virtual learning continues. His teacher is amazing and doing all she can, but it is not working since he can't stay concentrated at home. Riverview and other cities have stayed open this entire year. I don't understand why we can't go back, even if it's 2 days a week. At this point, anything is better than full-time virtual learning. It is greatly affecting our household. and I am worried my children won't be caught up to their grade level with this being online. I plead for the schools to open back up or have the students that need to come in a few hours a week for one-on-one lessons. I appreciate all the staff, teachers, and everyone with the school system. You are all so amazing. I just hope that if we cannot reopen, at least children with learning disabilities are given another option than just online. Thank you much. Charlotte Smith, these kids need to be back in person. Ashley Brown, face-to-face learning needs to resume. Remote learning is not conducive to my children. They have essentially been out of the classroom since March. Surrounding districts have been back full-time with very limited interruptions. Child's mental health is included when you talk about health and safety. It is extremely depressing to see your children slumped over a laptop for 6+ hours a day. I know how difficult it is I know how difficult I find working my HR position full-time from home as an adult. I cannot even begin to imagine how little minds are processing all of this. Please, please, please. I am begging you to give the parents and students who want to resume full face-to-face to have that option. A remote way may work well for some, and that is great, but for others, it cannot continue to not be given the option to return. Nicole Bundes, I urge the board to take a hard look at the guidelines that were put into place regarding our children returning to face-to-face learning. The governor recently recommended that all schools in Michigan have an in-person learning option by March 1st. The CDC has recommended in-person learning for children. Please, I ask that the current plan be terminated and the board implement a plan for the swift return of our students to in-person learning. If there must be a phased-in approach, please let our seniors have priority. Thank you to all of the teachers who have worked so hard to keep our children learning, and thank you to the board for listening to our concerns. Marlene Scott, thank you for your commitment to our kids and teachers' health and safety so far this year. I'm looking forward to hearing the hybrid plan, particularly for the elementary level. It seems many local districts have had success with this all year, and I hope my kids can get some time in the classroom in a safe way as a result of this. I would also hope, though, that the teachers are not expected to teach both in-person and online simultaneously. I would like to know if there's been a plan for the APPS staff to get COVID vaccines. If so, will this be mandatory? Angela Jones. I am looking forward to hearing the details about a potential elementary hybrid option. I appreciate the effort that has been made over the past 10 months to keep our kids and staff safe. I believe it is time to have a realistic plan to get our kids back in the classroom. I hope data from other local school districts showing success with in-person learning is used to support the return to the classroom for our district. Christine Newman. Governor Whitmer stated on Friday that science shows that it is safe for students to return to learning in person. If we are actually going to follow the science, then it is time to return in some form of to some form of in-person learning. Our kids are missing out on too much, and it just isn't fair. Joan Watson. While I understand the need for students to be in person, I also understand the board voted to stay remote until the positive rate was below 5%. I would hope the board would uphold their commitment and keep our students remote and safe until we reach the 5% threshold. If that is not possible by the March 1st state imposed deadline, I would hope and expect that APPS will offering a hybrid model. Class sizes were significantly reduced, which a hybrid model would ensure many Allen Park families would not be as hesitant to send their child back to face-to-face learning. A hybrid model would provide face-to-face education that so many families are looking for while offering smaller class sizes that would put other families' worries at ease. Please take all families into consideration as you make plans going forward. It is not an all or nothing 100% face-to-face or virtual situation. A hybrid learning plan is the safest option moving forward. Thank you for your consideration. And then we got two that just came in. And Angela Jones, it looks like you submitted the same comment twice. So if you meant to submit a separate one, you please resubmit if you're listening. Jen Dupuis, why is the district taking so long to have a plan in place on the return to school for our children? Many districts have been in person at some capacity since September. Some have never closed, even when the governor advised to do so around Thanksgiving. I feel the district is dragging their feet on kids returning to school. Parents want their students back and in person, and kids want to be back in person as well. The district has had since the end of June to come up with a plan that is conducive to students ensuring their safety and the safety of staff members. Why is there not a plan in place so students can return in a timely manner? Many districts are running effectively without spread to students and staff. I feel very disappointed in the way Allen Park has been handling this. Other districts are not following the 5% guideline for returning to school. Why is AP being so strict on this? Please get kids back in school. Thank you to all the teachers working so hard to educate our students the best they can. Thank you to all the board members. This one's from Kristen C. Barb, I'm sorry, do I read if they don't have a last name? No, okay. This one is from Marcel Dupuis, what my wife said. And that is it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tefelsky. We'll move on to section 10, personnel, and turn the meeting over to Mr. Darga.
Very good. Thank you very much. Employment services to be improved en masse. We are recommending that the individuals listed be employed. The candidates were interviewed and recommended by committee. As appropriate, background checks have been conducted. The suggested motion that the recommendations for employment and services be approved by the board for individuals as presented. Brittany Ashley, Independence Parapro, Lindeman. Amy Hayden, Resource Room Teacher, Lindeman/Benny.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. We'll open it up for any questions or comments regarding the motion. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Mr. Darga, 10B.
Resignations. We have received and accepted the following resignation. Brittany Ashley, Independence Paraprofessional, Lindeman.
Okay, and that completes our personnel section. Number 11 on the agenda, presentations. Mr. Darga?
At this time, I'd like to give an update from Governor Whitmer. As of press releases of January 8, 2021, guidance to return to in-person learning. The state's goal is to have all Michigan school districts offer an in-person learning option for students no later than March 1st and earlier if possible. Guidance emphasizes use of scientifically proven methods of reducing the risk of COVID-19 spread, including wearing masks, ventilation improvement, frequent hand washing, and social distancing. The district's mitigation plan and preparedness plan has received a 100% passing score. A voluntary state COVID-19 testing program will soon be available to educators, providing once-a-week tests. The idea of the new testing program is to provide additional resources to keep students and educators safe at school. Governor Gretchen Whitmer and the MDHHS recognize the outstanding work that the educators have been doing amid the pandemic. Vaccination of teachers and other school staff will also begin by January 11th due to educators' roles as essential frontline workers. The district is currently surveying staff to determine the quantity of desired vaccines. Wayne County deadline for the quantity is January the 13th. Our staff were asked to complete the survey by 4 p.m. today. Wearing masks is especially important for controlling COVID-19 transmission, and masks should be worn inside schools by all staff and students, except during meals and in other limited circumstances. Face masks may have made of cloth or may be disposed surgically styled masks. Other infection control measures in the new MDHHS guidance include, when feasible, assigning children to cohort groups and limiting their interactions to cohorts to reduce the number of contacts, keeping children 6 feet apart from one another to the extent feasible, making creative use of school space to facilitate distancing, providing adequate hand sanitizing supplies and reinforcing proper hand washing techniques, improving air ventilation, having students and staff conduct self-screening for symptoms at home every day before going to school, ensuring school plans are in place in coordination with their local health department if there are any positive COVID-19 tests, and having staff and students who either test positive or are close contact of those who test positive follow the guidance issued by the MDHHS as well as the local health departments. Anyone who is considered close contact with someone who tests positive but does not have symptoms should quarantine for 10 days under the CDC guidance. The Wayne County's news release, priority groups for vaccines are 1A and 1B. Wayne County is requesting about 5,000 doses a week and are currently only receiving less than 1,000 doses a week. At this time, I'd like to also discuss the potential hybrid schedule options, and I'd also like to welcome our building principals. I've invited all building principals to attend this evening, along with Dr. Sokol, the Director of Special Education. They're going to assist me with the following presentation. In a response to feedback received from the school community, the district is exploring various modes of instruction delivery. Thank you to the members of the hybrid committee for the initial legwork in this area. And this evening, Dr. John Tofelsky will assist me. He's the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, and will begin the presentation. Also, again, our building principals, assistant principals, and Dr. Sokol. Responding to the data, the community feedback, and exploring various modes of instruction. Hopefully, you guys, we are sharing our screen, and you'll be able to see that. Proposal 1, full return to instruction. And obviously, our proposal 2 is the hybrid return. and we'll also be able to provide additional instruction in that as well. Proposal 1 rationale. The proposal full return of students is based on the following. Attendance during October in-person learning resulted in a 90+% attendance rate average across the entire district. There were no documented case transmissions with the Allen Park schools since September, according to the Wayne County Health Department. Establishing procedures during the in-person learning this fall were successful at mitigating risk, and a return to this plan provides consistency for all students. Proposal 1 full return based on feedback from the governor's recommendation, full return of AP students, which is young 5s through 12th grade based on the October schedule. Again, that's based on the October schedule following the district recommended metrics. The school hours be 8:30 to 3:30, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at the elementary level, 7:40 to 2:40, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at the secondary level. I'm sorry, that's a little bit, there we go. Wednesday remains a remote, oops, sorry, John, if you go back one. Wednesday remains a remote schedule for all young 5 through 12 students for building cleaning. A soft arrival dismissal with assigned doors. There will be no temperature checks at the school. Parents will still need to screen their children at home. Lunch, elementary in the classroom. Sorry, that moved. Secondary is in multiple locations and bag breakfast at home at the end of the day. Latchkey services would be available before and after school. The elementary busing is per the schedule. Updated state recommendations for 3 feet of distancing is minimum. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Tilfelski to talk about the data-driven approach. You're still muted, Dr. Tilfelski.
Wow. Okay. Let's try and get this right. So on November 20th, the Wayne County Health Department issued an advisory to schools in Wayne County to shift to a temporary remote learning model. And that essentially shut high schools down as well. I think the high schools got shut down a few days later. At that time, the 7-day average was at 13.8. The 14-day average of COVID Act Now was at 12.6. And again, just as a reminder, the COVID Act Now website is the data piece that we use, and it pulls from state and local data. With that in mind, we hope to discuss the following as we're talking about our return to learn. Shifting from a 14-day average to a 7-day average of COVID Act Now to stay consistent with the new quarantine recommendations from the CDC. So we used a 14-day average of COVID Act Now because the recommended quarantine time was 14 days. And again, we know that COVID Act Now was an average, but we felt to stay consistent, we wanted to use recommended language from the CDC. So now the CDC is saying that with negative testing, you can return after 7 days of exposure, or with 10 days of quarantine after exposure. So they have lessened the quarantine window significantly. So we would like to shift from a 14-day average of COVID Act Now to a 7-day average of COVID Act Now to stay consistent with those recommendations. And then setting bans for modes of instruction. So above whatever percent the district ends up choosing, all students would be remote. And then at or below, students would be in person and either full or hybrid. I think one of the things that we've talked about as an administrative staff and as a staff, hearing feedback from the community and then listening to what the data and the science says, as some of the commenters mentioned, it's important to have a discussion on increasing the allowable test rate from 5% for in-person schooling. There was no evidence of spread within the Allen Park Public Schools, thereby allowing the district to be closer to the higher end of the acceptable range for in-person activities. As an example, between 3 and 10%, according to COVID Act Now, is the medium range, meaning they do not differentiate between something that is 4% or 8%. You are in the medium range for your positive test rate. We referred you to the guidance document for more information on the safety of schools. And in addition, our mitigation plan received a 100% score from the Wayne County Health Department. So we'd like to get that conversation started. And we'd still like to have the same notification system as we had all along, which is 2 business days from the time the positive test rate hits the corresponding band. So this is our current data. As of this morning, we are at an 11.2% positive test rate, which is, again, is the 7-day average. You can see below on the left-hand side is the COVID Act Now average, and then the 14-day average is this column right here. And then the graph on the right is the cases per 100,000. And so we are still in that critical range. We've dropped significantly from when we were in when everything was at its peak. And you can kind of see how the positive test rate and the cases per 100,000 track with each other. The other graph or the other chart that I have down here is the COVID Act Now average and then the 7-day average of that. One of the metrics that we talked about possibly, or we'd like to get a conversation about shifting to. I'd like to send it to Steve for his part in the proposal. Steve?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Tefelsky. Congratulations, by the way, to our new board members. Welcome to Allen Park. I'm Steve Zielinski, principal over at Arno Elementary. I don't want to rehash everything with the full in person, but basically what we have here is some key considerations between the 2 proposals of full in person and also the hybrid option. And the full in person, which occurred in October, was very successful. As you know, students would return to the same schedule that we established in the fall. There's synchronous learning, of course, for all 4 core subject areas. That worked out to about 23 hours, 20 live in person and 3 remote on Wednesday mornings. The intervention schedule was pretty much maximized during that time for Title I, 31A, ELL services, as well as special ed. This time, however, when we're looking at specials, we want to have the discussion about returning specials to their own spaces in a full return scenario. And also, as we know, students wore masks all day except for lunch or if they had snack in the classroom. Under the hybrid options, the students would have a half-day schedule with their teacher, and then a half a day would be asynchronous. And if you look below there, that equals out to about 14 hours of synchronous learning per week, 11 live in person, and then 3 remote would be on Wednesday mornings as well. There would be a primary focus on reading, math, and writing during the time that the kids are in front of the teacher, as research really backs up the fact that if you really do those things well, science and social studies are going to come along the way. So the primary focus would be ELA and math, and then science and social studies would be primarily asynchronous unless they incorporate it at some point into ELA as well. Specials, we're still going to have to work on a special schedule because in this scenario, specials are going to have to repeat the same class. So we're kind of envisioning right now grade bands where you have perhaps half a kindergarten class and half a first grade class having a special in the morning at the very same time with the same teacher in a live format, for the elementary kids. Let's see, intervention schedules for Title I, 31A, ELL, and special ed are going to change. That's also going to affect the way that we are able to place kids in either an AM section or a PM section. And so service time is going to vary for those things. There's going to be that midday transition issue for childcare, and that's going to be both for staff and parents. We're going to have to work through some of those issues there, and that could also affect attendance in the afternoon section. So we wait to see how that goes. And students in this scenario are going to be masked for about 2.5 hours as long as they're in school, as there wouldn't be any meals served at that point.
So we talked about, can everybody, is that better? Is that a bigger?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So we talked about some different hybrid plans with the hybrid committee. And so why was the choice made to recommend the half day or use the half day hybrid plan instead of a 2-1-2 hybrid plan? So there are some options or some schedules below, but essentially when we, when we looked at the half-day plans, they allow every kid to see a teacher every day. And while contact time is not necessarily increased, it does limit the amount of time each day. Again, the amount of time each week students would be asynchronous would not change. But the amount of time each day students would be asynchronous, would be significantly less. And in a 2-1-2 plan, secondary would have to choose between changing classes 5 times or seeing kids once a week in each period. There's no way to see in each period in person. There's no way to see kids more than 1 time a week for a single teacher in a block schedule. And as you can see below, there are 3 options. So in this one, if we were to continue the block schedule, which we have, first, second, and third hour would be approximately 2 hours per period. And so on Monday, you would have an entire day of cohort A, and cohort B would be asynchronous all day. On Tuesday, cohort A would be 4, 5, and 6, and they'd be asynchronous all day. Wednesday, all kids would see their teachers because we're all remote. And then Thursday and Friday, we'd flip it. So cohort A would be asynchronous all day Thursday and Friday, and cohort B would be in person all day Thursday and Friday. If you did a half day, you would have to have a 5 class change. And again, that would increase the amount of kids in halls and things like that. But you could see, you would see students twice a week as opposed to once a week in the option above. And then finally at the bottom here, the half day plan on Monday AM, cohort A is there for first, second, and third hour. And then cohort B is asynchronous, then they flip in the PM. But then on Tuesday, cohort A is back in school and cohort B is back in school as well, as you can see there. Any questions about the schedule before I go on? I know we're gonna have time for questions later, but I didn't know if anybody wanted anything now. Okay. So we wanted to share some resources, and there are links to all of this at the end of the presentation, but we wanted to pull a couple of things. Rather than quotes or anything like that, we really wanted to focus on large studies, because within each quote, you can parse out how much mitigation was done. Was there a hybrid plan? Was it half and half? Were all kids masked, unmasked? Were there barriers? Were there pods? All of those things. So we wanted to give kind of a bird's eye view of studies. So this one was led by Brown University. And analyzed more than 200,000 students and 63,000 staffs who had returned to school. And Dr. Oster reported an infection rate of 0.13 among students and 0.24 among the staff in school. And then you can see the significantly longer one from Iceland, and it was a 40,000 person study. And it found that children under 15 were about half as likely as adults to be infected and only half as likely as adults to transmit the virus to others. That does not mean that they do not transmit the virus. And obviously we have students over the age of 15 in our school system, but it is something to take into consideration when we're looking at this. And again, MDHHS currently allows elementary age students to attend classes in person, and it has no requirement for a hybrid model. Sarah, Mrs. Metzger.
Hi there. I'm Sarah Metzger. I'm the principal at Benny, and I'm going to be starting this conversation about the proposal 2, which is the hybrid model, and how that would look in elementary school. So as both Steve and John just talked about, in the hybrid model, just as in the full in-person model, students would attend school in person Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday for half days, and the specific schedule follows 2 slides later. Wednesday would still remain a remote day. So while in the hybrid model, students are in 2 separate cohorts. So students in AM cohort would not mix with students in PM cohort, except on Wednesdays when they're remote. So Wednesdays remotes, they would be working together remotely as they have been now for this school year. So students will be divided into 2 cohorts and either assigned as AM or PM. And I'm going to skip the next bullet and go to the considerations, and then I'll talk about that part. So some of the considerations that will be taken into account when creating the cohorts are the last name by family, household. We know not every family has the exact same last name in their household, but household groups together, the size of the specific grade and class. So the class sizes vary, for example, from 1st grade to 5th grade. So how to make sure that the cohorts are balanced, both in AM, PM, we'll be taking those things into consideration. Additionally, the special education needs of students. So currently students receive resource room, speech, services, and they would be assigned to the cohorts based on their IEP schedules so that they were able to receive the full range of services based on the schedule that's been created according to their IEPs. And then in terms of the ECP class, the plan is that they would run the same schedule as October, and that is due to the nature of their age and the size of their classroom and their math scoring requirements. And kind of similarly, special considerations will be taken into account for both Young Fives and our special education center-based programs, which are the cognitively impaired classroom at Arno and our autism spectrum disorder classrooms at Lindemann. And that is because those classes are currently much lower numbers than, say, a traditional gen ed classroom. So the model and mode that those students would attend class would be program dependent, and that information would be disseminated to families as soon as a final decision was made.
Sarah, do you want me to skip ahead to the schedule, or do you want Kathy to go next, and then we'll?
I think the schedule is pretty self-explanatory, John, so I don't think you have to skip to it, but board members, if when you look at it, I know you've already seen it, if you have any questions, it's basically 2.5 hours, both in the morning and in the afternoon. So each cohort, okay, thank you. Yeah, that probably just makes sense to look at it. It's 2.5 hours at each cohort. So whether you were in AM or PM, 2.5 hours. And then the middle of the day is 90 minutes. So that is teacher, lunch, and prep combined for 90 minutes at that time.
Oops, I'm sorry. Kathy, here you go.
Oh, thank you. Hi, I'm Kathy Lott. I am a principal at Lindemann, and I'll touch on a few other things with the hybrid. Obviously, we have those great new desks. They're large, and every student will have them. They're going to still have their barriers that they had on their desks in the fall that I know we got going a few weeks in. That part of that 90 minutes at midday will be teachers helping to wipe down desks. I think one thing to remember is that we won't have kids sharing desks, so it's not quite as dire to get every desk wiped down right away. But we do want to make sure that those things happen, including and then adding things like faucets or door handles, which a lot of those things are also being covered every couple hours by our custodians. So there will still be the full cleaning schedule in the evenings, and on Wednesdays, the even deeper clean that our custodial staff is doing. It's our understanding they are still using the sprayer a lot, even in the evening. So I think our rooms are getting probably even better cleaning just in general. As I think Steve touched on, most of the work for social studies and science would be asynchronous. So it would be things that were assigned that would go along. And we would also have the multi-grade level specials, live specials. So special teachers would do one group in the morning and then with like a K1, and then the same thing in the afternoon with a different set of K1. In our hybrid model, we are not proposing eating either breakfast or lunch at school. Those things would go home with kids, similar to what we did in the fall, where they took their breakfast home for the very next day. They'd be doing the same thing, but with breakfast and lunch. The hope would be that we would have busing, and then in that hybrid model, we would be able to get closer to that 6 feet of social distancing in the classrooms.
And then John Kelly, Mr. Kelly, to kick off the secondary hybrid model proposal.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Kelly. I'm the principal of Allen Park High School. And the proposal, the hybrid proposal for the secondary schedule is as follows. So the students would attend in person every day except for Wednesday, and they would attend for a half day. And like the elementary, they would be divided into 2 cohorts, and they would either be the AM cohort or the PM cohort. And there'd be a break in the middle for teacher lunch and preparation, and to allow for some cleaning. The considerations at the secondary level are basically just last name by family and household. That means if there's a mixed last name in the family, that they wouldn't be in opposite cohorts. The size of grade class and the special education needs, those are for the elementary. And the use of the cohorts at the secondary level will reduce class sizes. It will not necessarily cut them in half, because we have so many classes. Drawing a line down the middle of the alphabet of the school's population might cut some classes in half and others might not quite be half, but it will reduce class sizes. And both groups of students will receive breakfast and lunch daily. They'll have a breakfast option and they will have a lunch option every day. And under this proposal, Wednesdays would remain remote for all students, and there would be no cohorts for the remote Wednesdays. They would be all together via the remote format. Mr. Laura?
I'm Sean Laura. I'm the principal at Allen Park Community School, and I'll take you through the timing. And it's pretty similar to the elementary plan. The 2 cohorts in the morning for 2 hours and 50 minutes. They'll go to classes 1, 2, and 3. And that cohort in the afternoon will be doing asynchronous work on their own. Then there's an 80-minute break for teachers to have their lunch and to have their prep period. So, if you're teaching hours 1, 2, and 3, but your prep period is 4th hour, this will ensure that you get a prep that every day. Cohort B comes in at 11:50 to dismiss at 2:40, and they will also be going to hours 1, 2, and 3. And so they would be doing asynchronous work in the morning. That cohort would then, at the end of the day, grab their lunch and grab their breakfast for the next day. Wednesdays will look pretty much identical to how they are now, with all the students remote streaming synchronously with their teachers. And Mr. Where you at? Mr. I'm going to take you through the timing of the blocks.
Yeah, my name is Pat Donahue, principal at the middle school, and congratulations to the new and the re-elected board members. The schedule for the secondary level in the hybrid plan is as follows. With the cohort A, with the morning schedule, as how we have it set up, and period 1 starts at 7:40 on, let's say it'd be Mondays, and then on Tuesdays, period 4 would start the day at 7:40. We're going back to kind of a schedule where instead of the hour and a half long classes in this type of a model, that they would just be a little bit about 55 minutes long. So on a Monday in the morning, periods 1, 2, and 3, as you can see, 7:40 to 8:34, 8-minute break there. And then into second hour, and then from second 8-minute break into third hour. The lunch from 10:30 to 11:50, so teachers would have a lunch and a prep period each day. And those morning cohort classes would go home, those students would go home, and the afternoon cohort would arrive by 11:50, and those classes would begin. And again, 11:50 to 2:40. So we're still within the traditional school day time frame. And we found that this would be the best schedule set up at this point. With that being said, that's our presentation. And did anyone have any questions for either central office and or the building administrators?
Okay, thank you. Everyone for their participation and development of that information for us this evening. We will send it around the board for questions or commentaries at this time. I will indicate that I'm going to designate Dr. Warren first to lead off. And Dr. Warren, as we discussed, I do have a prior commitment that I'm going to be leaving for probably in the middle of your questions. So when you're completed, we'll have the gavel will be in your hands to finish up the meeting. We'll turn it over to Dr. Warren.
Absolutely. So I do have a couple quick questions. First of all, I saw that they'll have lunch and prep. The teachers would have lunch and prep at the same. So I'm speaking of the hybrid, if that is a consideration that we're looking at. So it looked like the teachers would have lunch and prep at the same time every day. Who's in charge of cleaning the desks in between?
So I could just speak to that, Dr. Jen. So as Kathy said, the students wouldn't be sitting in the same desks. So like the morning group sits in their desk and then no one else is going to sit in that in the afternoon. So our plan was to just do the exact same thing that had previously been happening, which was as the students were leaving, they were kind of working together. The teachers were taking some, a quick wipe of that stuff. The full cleaning will not happen till the end of the school day. But because the students are not sitting in the same spaces and there isn't any lunch being eaten, there wouldn't be a lot of time spent without masks. Really, there shouldn't be much of any time spent without masks. The sharing of spaces and kind of that wiping of the individual spaces would not have to be as significant as it will be at the end of every day.
Okay. How about thank you, Sarah, very much. How about for the middle school and the high school? I mean, I'm assuming the kids will have to use the same desks in your locations.
Yeah, likely given the amount of students. And when we were in person in the fall, the teachers cleaned their desks between classes. We had an elongated passing time for that purpose.
Yeah,
Okay.
the 8 minutes, Dr. Warren, will continue this time as it did early in the fall. So it's an extra 3 minutes that they didn't traditionally have.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Also, so now they're going to all have prep at the same time. Does anybody feel that that's going to be an issue? I mean, how many teachers do you have per building? Everybody using the copy machine or trying to prep all of their stuff at the same time? Do we find that going to be an issue?
Well, at the secondary level, they would still get a prep. Let's say that my prep is 4th hour on Monday. I won't have one except the one between, but on Tuesday I will have a 4th hour prep. So Tuesday we're going 4, 5, 6. So it's not necessarily there's going to be a log jam at every copier
At the secondary level.
Yeah, I think at the elementary level, they have that 90-minute block, but there's no requirement that everybody takes their prep at 12:15 to whatever. So anytime within that 90-minute block, and then it also includes before school and after school, teachers can run things off. And our hope is that kids have the technology in front of them, that the overall load of worksheets and copies being made, the machines really should go down, because we really don't need the one-to-one situation.
Awesome. Thank you.
And just to speak to the lunch, I know you were talking specifically about the prep period, Jen, but for example, because no one will be using the cafeterias, teaching staff can spread out in the cafeteria as well as use their own space, because students would not be in there eating. So there's lots of spaces for people to work and be.
Awesome. Thank you. Speaking on lunch, I did not understand I believe it was the high school or middle school level. Are they eating lunch there or no?
At the hybrid, no.
Okay.
Grab and go.
Thank you. And I think that's what I have for right now. So you guys have showed us proposals for face-to-face and obviously hybrid, right? It's just showing the different ways behind it. So I really appreciate that very much because it helps us kind of look into it and make some decisions. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I know how much hard work that was. One quick question. I'm so sorry. Was the hybrid committee, is this what they decided?
From the elementary standpoint, a lot of the things are very similar to what they decided. We talked about sort of the half days and the 2-1-2 and all those with them. But a lot of these pieces, yes. I mean, there are some more minute details that we had to add into there, but yeah, it's the general
that we don't think about. So many moving parts there, Ms. Lott. So many moving parts.
Some of the other things, some of the details we did have to fill in at the secondary level too, because there was a discussion, I believe, of the 2-1-2. There was also a discussion of just going straight remote. Some of those things just were not feasible from a staffing standpoint when we talk about that, or from a logistical standpoint or practical standpoint. So there were some things that we had to do when we received communication from the hybrid committee that this was where we got. Now it's your turn to take it and run with it. There were some things that we had to do that maybe the hybrid committee did not intend us to do, but at that point, when we're looking at everything, not just what's best for one party, when we talk about it, we talk about three parties. We have the kids, the teachers, and we have the parents. And so you can't do something that's awesome for everybody. And so like one group may want something that may not be a part of it, but we feel like we did what is right for the students, which is kind of the mission and goal here.
That's right. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I think it would be very confusing if we did AM, PM for elementary and then 212, for example, at the higher levels. Especially, I have a lot of friends that have kids at every school. That would be a awful mess for the children or for the parents. Have we looked into, just curious because it wasn't presented at all, but like, for example, Trenton, they're doing something where they're giving the students the option to either go in school or remain remote with the same teacher. And there's like the teacher being recorded. Was that just not even looked into? We don't like that.
Yeah, we did look into that. And it's, we did actually speak with the administration over at Trenton as well. And those are issues that we talked about with our own stuff. It was something that we were not really interested in looking into or pursuing as much. Also, we were working with our, the union representatives as well. So we had options to work around that. Where we felt that, coming up with these plans better suited our needs compared to what Trenton was doing, for their needs.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just, me, I always want to try to make as many people happy and included as possible. And it's just, we're at a no-win situation, so it's a little difficult here. And then the administration, did they have from the administrative standpoint, do they feel, obviously each one's an individual, so I'm not asking you out. I'm just saying over a whole, are they comfortable going back face-to-face? Would they rather go hybrid or would they rather stay remote? Was that discussed like as a whole or no?
It was. Yeah. The administrative group and as the group here, I think, there's a lot of support to return full face-to-face instruction. The hybrid is a good option, but there's a lot of moving parts. And then we have to balance the reality of returning full face-to-face with, we've got all of the state of Michigan guidelines that we still have to abide by. And so that's what we're still working through, the reality of the COVID being at 11.2 positivity rate and still maintaining, again, the 6-foot distance within the classrooms and still meeting a lot of those safeguards. So we're still mulling through that. But ultimately, the admin team, if the numbers were there and we can create a new COVID plan, if you will, maybe some broader numbers. If we can create a plan that meets those needs, administration would definitely prefer to be face-to-face.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. Yep. And Mr. Darga, I don't remember completely, but I do believe it is in that thing that you just held up and highlighted. It does say that we can go to 3 feet successfully in a classroom, correct?
It does. Yeah. So it does talk a lot about creating, obviously cohorting. But if we do decide to push forward, we can bring it down to 3 feet because we are wearing masks and we've already have the dividers. One of the drawbacks that we would look into is, unfortunately, just during depending on which plan we are at, the lunchroom situation within the elementary classrooms would be a little bit tight. But other than that, we do meet the guidelines. Dr. Tefelsky and I were actually in buildings with a yardstick measuring desks and distances. To make sure I could see that. But there's still some challenges, but we feel pretty good about it. Yeah, Dr. Tefelsky's got some photos here of
awesome nose to nose, right?
Yeah, it's nose to nose. People are always, and I know and I understand, this is my 30th year in education. I understand that people want to say right away that they're 18 inches apart, their elbows are touching, but the reality is it's been very, it's specific. It's nose to nose. So you have 2 students seated at a desk. It's from their nose to the next child's nose. So obviously there's no students. We were just going from the center of the seat to the other center of the seat. And the reality is our friend Pat Shearer often said we could even declutter the classrooms even more. As Dr. Tefelsky and I visited many, many classrooms throughout the district on an entire day in all buildings. There's a lot of decluttering that could still happen if we needed to space those desks out even more.
This was a very tight classroom. And you can see the teacher, because of some of the furniture that's in the room, had to turn desk sideways. And even with this kind of odd configuration, I would call it, you're still, that's a meter stick. So it's technically 39 inches. That's all we have around here. So you still have the space. Again, it's not ideal, but the plan calls for masking or barriers. And so we have masking and barriers. So if we did decide to go to 3 feet, we again, in that consideration, exceed both of those recommendations.
Absolutely. I really appreciate all the hard work that the hybrid committee put into this. I appreciate all the work the administration team put into this. And I appreciate all of you board members. We definitely, when we signed up for this, we're not planning on this. So, it's a tough situation to be in. So I really, really appreciate all of you very much. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of start with our newbies. So Steve Martin, I'm gonna go with you next.
Hi. So again, thanks for everybody for putting together this work. I know there's no right answer. I know we can't make everybody happy. I've been in those situations, and to make as many people happy as you can. With regard to the Trenton issue, because I have friends that teach in Trenton, we said that the union was against that type of model?
Yeah. So, and when I say, I'm not going to say the word against, they didn't say that we were against it, but we felt that we could come up with different plans where we wouldn't need to look at that type of an option. Obviously, if the board felt that we needed to spend more time in it, we could easily, continue to look in that. Like Dr. Tefelsky and I actually contacted the administration in Trenton. And I think it's important to also remember that in Trenton, as well as many other schools that use these other models, they have a population, a very large population that wanted to stay home. And in Allen Park, we're split pretty close 50-50. So, it didn't work real well with our class size numbers to offer that. But again, it's a plan that just a few schools in the Tri-County area are doing. It's not a very popular plan. There's, again, a real small handful of schools that have actually are doing that. If that's something that the board thinks that we could spend more time on, we would spend more time with the APPEA. And I've spoken with their representatives, and including myself and our administrative team. And on behalf of the teachers, many teachers were not comfortable with that scenario. Even speaking with some of the people inside of Trenton schools, and nothing to speak anything negative. But when a teacher is out, they have the camera focused on them. The teacher's covering a lesson. The students within the classroom setting have questions. The teacher then goes around the classroom to help those in the classroom assist. And the teachers were telling us then the students at home are looking at a blank screen for quite a bit of time. As the teacher roams that room. So there's obviously a lot of downtime while the teacher is assisting students within the classroom. Because again, the students at home don't have that same luxury. So when we started to do the pros and cons of what that really meant to us, we felt that we may be able to come up with a different plan that offers some flexibility for all of our students, whether it's a hybrid plan of getting all students in at least for half day, 4 days a week, which is a lot more time they have now, or even return again to a full face-to-face instead of occupying time within the camera setting.
So do we know, Mike, if it's still split 50-50? I would almost seem to think that margin has maybe grown more to wanting to be in class versus the 50-50, which would then make it unfeasible completely.
Right. And I think, and I agree with you, Mr. Martin. I think that as time has passed, I think we are, we did do a survey not long ago through the actual hybrid committee, and I think it was around a 52-47 or 48 split at that time, at least according to that data survey. I think if we were to resurvey the information, I do think as time goes on, the growing number of parents and students wanting back in the classroom does continue to grow.
Okay, maybe if we can get a rundown on that. I don't know how long that would take, but another question is with regard to the latchkey. I know the hybrid has a ton of moving pieces, so that's kind of why I asked it. I think it's easier to be all one day with online. It's just a lot from feedback that I've been receiving. And with the 11-15 drop off or the split in between A and B, there's some concern with not being able to be there to pick up students in between 11-15 and is it 12-50, I believe. Any consideration on how we would face that hurdle? I know latchkey there's limitations with latchkey, but would there be a holding place, anybody to watch those kids, and would they be split apart? I wouldn't want my kids walking home. Mike, you and I talked. I walked back and forth to school until 8th grade, but my kids have never walked home or to school. But any consideration for that, because there are a lot of moving parts, and to make sure that there, if possible, coverage for those type of situations.
Yeah, and I do know that the elementary team, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Laura, as well as the elementary principals, for the younger kids. There has been discussion, and that is one of the hurdles, that is on our mind also. And as parents ourselves, we too would want our children, stuck in an area waiting for extended amount of times also. Again, our teachers are busy. They've got their prep, they're doing their rooms, they've got their lunch. And of course, as we all know, our teaching staff has always placed students first. So therefore, if a student did need assistance, they were always there. But then, is that necessarily a fair system to put back on the teachers or even the administrative team? When I was a principal at Lindeman, all too often, students were in our offices sitting and waiting for parents to pick them up. So I'll turn it over to the team to see. I know they've been brainstorming, but that definitely is a concern out there.
Yeah. So as far as latchkey is concerned, right now with our staff and their availability, doing morning latchkey before school and afternoon latchkey after the PM, it would not be a problem. Staffing it after the AM cohort is done and staffing it, before the PM cohort starts, we would have to hire some different staff with some different availability. That we don't have right now in place.
Yeah, and Sean, as you said, that was actually just running through my mind. Would you have to hire temporary subs or something for that, fill that time, and then find a place to put all these kids? Do you put them in the gym, and is that fair? Because if they're in the gym, I don't know if you're going to be able to social distance them properly at that age, young, running around, etc. So.
Yeah, and at that point, if you're talking about AM kids staying, you're talking about serving lunches. And,
yeah, exactly.
You're also talking about, just for instance, in the cafeteria, I believe, and Sean, correct me if I'm not right, that we had a max of 25 kids for the latchkey program, and that could well exceed that number. And then, how do you pick and choose who gets to participate or not, participate? And that's certainly a concern. As far as getting these kids home and also, getting someone's child to school. That's been on our minds for sure.
Yeah. And Steve had mentioned the cap there because latchkey is it's governed by LARA, LARA.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a child care, just like a daycare licensing program. So the guidelines can be a little bit more stringent. And so if their masks are off, because they're eating, they have to be 6 feet apart. And the cap came to basically how many kids we could sit at those cafeteria tables while maintaining 6 feet nose to nose.
Yeah, so there's some hurdles definitely there. And it's just a concern for the parents. I mentioned to Dr. Jen and Mr. Darga, as an example, if my kids were that age, Thursday I had a meeting, a deadline till noon. My wife was in the classroom teaching. If I have the resources and family members to help, but if we didn't, new to the district, whatever, our kids would have been stuck in no man's land. So,
yeah,
just a concern.
And Steve,
it's one of those issues also that if Dr. Tofelski lives it, where his kids are, it's a half-day program. And if I'm not mistaken, Ms. McDonald's daughters live it as well. I think they have a half-day program where they're at as well. So they live that whole schedule of the pickoffs, the drop-offs, and things of that nature. And you are right; it's not an easy task.
And I think that's one of the things that when we look at each of the models and are thinking about the pros and cons, there are certainly pros to the hybrid. There are lots of nice advantages there. And this is a really significant con, a significant issue for which we don't have a great solution. So, as Dr. Jen asked Mike earlier, that's why we would lean to waiting till we can feel like it's safe to be in person, because we feel like that midday transition is eliminated.
And I think too, the other piece of that is we've got lots of teachers with children in Allen Park Public Schools. And so you're also adding them, in there as far as what they've also got to figure that piece out so they can teach in the afternoon. So we weighed a lot of those options a lot.
Okay, then I have a couple more questions. Sorry to take so long, but the prep in the middle school and the high school areas, this doesn't seem to be much of a problem with the elementaries, but you've got 80 minutes. Elementaries have the asynchronous in the afternoon. So you're kind of doing just one prep and planning for the asynchronous at one. In the middle school, it seems like you're maybe doubling that. You're prepping for the next day, middle school and high school potentially, and maybe I'm wrong, so please correct me if I'm wrong, as well as doing preparing a review for the kids in the afternoon for the asynchronous piece of their learning in the afternoon. So is that adding to their plates? And is that, I'm just concerned with if any teacher maybe backlash with that. Is anybody in the committee reach out to the educators and just kind of covered that?
I think Ms. Metzger said it really well, and she said it's not, we're not necessarily crazy about having a hybrid plan because it's, there are no, what's the saying? There are no perfect solutions, only perfect problems. And this version of the hybrid plan causes the teachers to not have to teach two classes at once, to not teach their in-person kids and then try to teach their asynchronous kids at the same time. So for example, if we go to a 2-1-2 and I have a class, my Monday, Tuesday group, I'm teaching them in person, and then my other kids are at home and I still have to give them enough content to keep them busy for the several days I don't have them. So in this instance, I teach kids in the morning, 1, 2, and 3, and those kids go home. And hopefully my lesson is such that in class I can do a lot of the explaining, demonstration, cover the content, and then send them home with some guided practice, things they can access through my Google Classroom. And then I have the other class. So they will have that break in between. And every teacher is a little different with how they prep. Some do it daily, some do it via unit, some do it weekly. So, it'll take a little bit of practice, but, we think this is the more efficient approach for them.
Thanks, John. And I know these teachers are willing to go the extra mile because I see it every day with a ton of teachers and they're doing it. So I'm not saying that. My concern is the adding, which if this streamlines that and makes it okay, then that works for me as well. So
we don't want them to have to do more than they're already doing, and they're already doing more than they've ever done. And hopefully being back in person with the full day and the block and using the measures that we used when we were in person, I think that's all of our first choice.
And then just one final question on the pictures that John, you were showing, you had the computer lab.
Yep.
Were there dividers in between those labs, or did that meet the 3 feet?
There were no dividers there because the computer labs were not being used during the first part. We can certainly get dividers for the computer labs. That's not a big deal. I think we have. Tiffany can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we ordered extras because we ordered 3,800, and then we realized that there are 3,800 kids, but at any given time in the day, there's about 4,200 seats. So we were a little short. So we had to order some more so we can make that happen.
Perfect. So that's all I had. And like Dr. Janet said as well, I know there's no easy solution here. There's just not. You can cover every base that you think you need to cover, but there's going to be a problem somewhere. So I definitely appreciate all the hard work that's going into this, and will, I'm sure, continue to go into this. So thanks everyone on the committee for putting these together. Much appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. We will move to Laura Lukey.
Hi, thank you. And again, thank you everybody for all your hard work on this plan and getting it to us. If I could just get if it's possible, any timeline information. Because I'm hearing like hybrid was created, this consideration and these plans, because back when the students went back in, there was a lot of concern about overcrowding and the whatnot. So then we started looking this route again. But it sounds like this isn't really the route that we'd hoped to go, that full face-to-face is the route that everyone's really hoping for, is kind of the vibe I'm picking up. So how do you see that? When do you see that? And what makes you think it'll be different this time? Like, what's safe? Because I just sort of am picking up on a pattern of repetition, because if we go full face-to-face, there's still going to be the families that aren't happy we're full face-to-face and the classrooms are overcrowded. And where do we go from there? Like, when do you see it happening? And then, is this the plan? If this happens, is it the plan? And that's it? Or do we keep trying to reinvent the wheel again?
Well, I think one of the things is, again, we've been tasked by the board to kind of look at different instructional platforms, and so that's when the teachers got together and they started looking at the hybrid committee, and then just this past Friday, I think it's important to remember, this past Friday, the governor came out and kind of came up with, her announcement that kind of put out, a rough deadline of the March 1st, time frame. And it gives flexibility to schools who are remote. And I know we've got, half of our community, roughly, we're split, and, these are no-win situations. We had some parents even already state they're happy that we continue to be remote, to stay remote. And we've had parents say it's time to get the kids back in school. And we've had that same argument basically since September, and we understand that. Allen Park Public Schools chose to use the data piece, so we've been using the data piece. And I know a lot of people say, well, the data piece doesn't work, which is not true. The data piece is working, and actually several different schools in the Downriver area have now adopted the same data piece. We've had people say that schools have never stopped going to school, which is, unfortunately, that's not a true statement. Schools have stopped. We were mandated to stop at all levels. So, I think that the plan that we have is something I'm very proud of, that we've created, that we stand behind, which is, why we are where we're at now. We're continuing to modify our plan. One of the things I think that's important, that why we've asked the board not to make a decision today, is because we've worked with the teachers and the hybrid committee. The administrative team tweaked it. We're now getting some more questions and would like to continue to work with the program that we've put together. And as we've said, we'd have to tweak that. I think more importantly, though, and we had one of our parents state, and I agree with the parent 100%, and something we've been working on behind the scenes, is re-looking at the COVID Act now and the data point. We don't necessarily want to drop a data point. We believe in the data, we believe in math, we believe in science. But we do think we need to expand that data point. We think we need to look at that data point differently, and that's something we've been talking about administratively for a little while now. Instead of using a 5%, a hard number, maybe there needs to be a range. And so therefore we're looking at different ranges. We like the concept of the hybrid plan. We know it fits the need. We prefer the full in-person face-to-face plan. When we look at the different numbers, what we are looking at as a committee and why we've got time to make this happen, I think it's important that our residents and our teachers and our students remember, we're going to be remote at least until the 22nd of this month. That gives us 10 more days to kind of work through scenarios. Second semester starts the 25th at the secondary level. That doesn't mean we have to be ready by the 25th. We could be ready if the board says by February 1st we could roll this out. When we look at a number of 11.2% at the positivity rate, we're now saying, hey, listen, when we look at this whole time frame that Dr. Tefelsky had put out, when you're in that medium area, that goes up to about a 10% roughly. So if you get up to about 10% compared to the 5%, that's a medium risk. So we're starting to think now a little bit more broadly. Now that we've got so many different things, the district has done all of these different safeguards, that now we've got the nations coming out with vaccines. We're starting to roll vaccines out now to our teachers. Oakland County is already getting vaccines. We're hoping Wayne County will get vaccines very soon. When we start adding this all up together, we think we've got a little bit more flexibility. So now we're saying, let's create some different gaps here. What if we were to say up to 10%? We could easily be in anything below 10% in person. If it was a sneak above 10%, and these are example numbers only, but if it snuck above 10% and went to anywhere from 10 to 13%, well, then we go into a hybrid plan. If it's above a 13%, well, then we're just remote. Those numbers are getting too high. So we're starting to broaden our thought concept as far as COVID Act now, and we think we can capture more needs of our teachers, parents, and our students. It's because we believe in the things that we've done in our schools to make them safe. It's because we believe that the government's coming through with the vaccines, and we think that that's going to have a big impact. But we're also worried to move too quickly that our teachers haven't even received one vaccine yet. You know, so it's hard for us to say, hey, we're at 11.2% right now. Just a couple of weeks ago, I put us out at 5%, you know, and our teachers have been vaccinated. And I know people will say, well, back in October, they weren't vaccinated or whatever they may say, but our numbers are a lot higher right now than they were in October. So I think Allen Park Public School has always moved with a safety-minded decisions, and I applaud our Board of Education as well as our residents in our community for that. And I think we're moving in a good direction. I think we've got great plans in the process. Administratively, if it looked like we needed to spend 2 more weeks in a remote setting to get the numbers down to come back to full face-to-face, that's what we'd rather do. We'd rather say, hey, listen, instead of going hybrid for 1 to 2 weeks with all those moving parts and then move to face-to-face, why not just stay face-to-face for 2 weeks? It's working, and come back in full face-to-face. But again, I think when you look at the broad band of creating now new numbers, you know, I like the idea of ending up to a 10% roughly is we're in school. If it happens to jump between, you know, 10 and 13 or 10 and 12%, that could be a hybrid situation. We need to get those class sizes down. The numbers are rising. And then anything beyond 12, 13, or 14, we have to be remote. Those are just some ideas, and that's why we're asking for the board to continue to work with us and be flexible so we can create these plans and trying to really tweak them to meet the needs of not only us administratively, we're trying to meet the needs of our teachers. And we'd love to bring this plan back now and say, hey, you guys heard what the board said. Here's some great questions. Here's what our community said. How can we tweak this to make it even better? Phew.
So when though, like so parents can plan, or ideally, is it 2 weeks if the numbers trend down, if it stays below? Like what's the timeline so that they can start thinking of their adjustments? Is it going to be a date? Is it going to be a percentage? Because it could be another big change for some parents. So when should they start? I mean, the way, you know, kids' appointments, whatnot, you're booking months out. Now schedules are going to change again completely. So that's all I'm saying. Are we looking at a number to tell parents it'll be at this percent, or are we looking at a date? Like what is the goal?
We're still, again, as I stated, we're still looking at data numbers.
Okay.
And one of the things that we were, you know, going to recommend to the board, you know, and possibly, you know, reconvening for a special board meeting, you know, within about 10 days. You know, the second semester, as Steve starts the 25th of January. We're on remote to the 22nd. We would love to give our teachers more direction. We'd love to give our parents and students more direction. If we met around that time frame of January 20th, before the end of the term, to do a working session with the board to kind of work together on.
Do we have a way, is asynchronous work tracked, like the reliance of it? I'm not a whole lot familiar with asynchronous work. So when you just give elementary kids stuff to do in the afternoon, how do we know, like, how is that tracked? Can it be tracked?
I'll let our principals talk with that.
Laura, are you meaning, can we tell whether they are or aren't doing it? Is that what you're asking?
Well, right, they're not with the teacher anymore. So how does it get tracked? What's happening? Is it homework that they're turning in for grades? Is it being tracked by grades?
It could be, that could be one way, especially for our older elementary students. What we think it would be a combination of, as Mr. Kelly said, about work that was assigned or explained in the session that they were in with the teacher, and then the actual work time was the at-home time. So that could be part of it. The other thing could be that it could be work that is assigned directly in Google Classroom that doesn't require or in this case would be done without an in-person instruction. It might have follow-up the next day. It might have something to turn in. That would really vary on the age of the student, on the type of assignment, on whether it was something that was short-term or long-term. I think there's a lot of variability to it, but our teaching staff are really skilled, especially now that they've been working asynchronously and synchronously since last March. And we also have training sessions through a company called CVD. So our staff has done a really nice job of being able to give students instruction and have them have the opportunity to work on it asynchronously.
Fantastic. Thank you. And then my other question is that the original plan with the blocking of the schedules was so that we could seamlessly transition if we needed to go back and forth. With these potential schedule changes, will we still be able to transition seamlessly? Because we can't predict where this crazy beast is going. We want to stay hopefully optimistic, but if we switch these schedules, if the hybrid plan ends up being what gets approved, I don't see that the schedules are the same as they are now. So if something happens with this variant that could potentially come through and students have to be back home again, do we just seamlessly transition to the way it was with everybody having different schedules now?
They would have the same schedules. So they're, a teacher has one class. It's divided into two halves.
Mm-hmm.
There's the morning half, and then there's the afternoon half. And then on Wednesdays, when we are remote under the proposed hybrid plan, the two halves just rejoin to a class. So if we have to go back remote, they would just rejoin and make a whole class again.
Fantastic. That is great. Because I know that's one thing that there's just been so much change that it's nice to find out that even with this other plan, they could transition back without it being too disruptive.
Well, we have the infrastructure in place with our Google Classrooms. Unfortunately, we've done it long enough that we've gotten pretty good at it. As Ms. Metzger said, we've been spending a lot of time working with Curriculum by Design to have the best practices and strategies to do that.
If we end up in this hybrid plan, do we know how much FaceTime instruction that the kids are going to miss?
How much they'd miss? So they would have 14 hours a week plus 3 hours remote, right? Did I get my math right on that one?
It was 11 and 3, John.
11 and 3, so 14 total.
Yeah.
Because it seems like there's a pretty significant decrease in FaceTime that the students would have with their teachers. Is there concern about that, or that parents should have? This isn't, my questions aren't because I'm taking one side or the other.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
No, there certainly is a concern. I think that's why, the sooner we can safely get them back all in person and maximize in-person time.
Right.
I think that's kind of what we always go to.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, great. And if the kids go back into the buildings with the hybrid plan, do student activities get to resume within the building as well?
So for athletics, we'll be following MHSAA rules. And so as of right now, they return on the 15th, or their last day off is the 15th. They return on the 18th, I think. And then for other clubs and activities, I think we would probably revert to what we were doing in the fall.
Right.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we had anything outside of MHSAA activities running.
We did.
We have limited clubs.
and some of the smaller clubs, again, because we allowed MHSAA, they were running, at one point the drama club was getting ready to start theirs and they were social distancing, that type of stuff. So again, they work with their building administrators depending on the club and the activity. Some of those groups are even able to meet outside, but we are allowing those clubs once WHSA was in, and we're back in session. Then those clubs can meet ultimately, again, following the same social distancing guidelines as anything else.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you so much. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Laura. We are going to now move to Mike Klein.
Thanks. I don't have a lot of questions. I just have some comments that I think I'll throw in there, and then we can move along. I guess it's important to kind of call it what it is, right? COVID stinks, man. This makes everything very difficult. People are doing the best they can, tons of work out there, and yet at the end of the day, it stinks. It's not what we all got into education for, and it's making the best of a bad situation. And teachers are doing an amazing job, administrators are doing an amazing job, people are doing amazing jobs trying to pull this off, but it's hard. And things are not going to be the same for a little bit, and we got to kind of keep grappling with that. I kind of chunked my things into 3 sections. The first was kind of looking at all this data. As you try to morph through that, there's some commonalities, things that begin to emerge. When you look at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services report that they submitted, that they asked us to look at, the Journal of American Medical Associations, the JAMA article that's been promoted quite a bit, and the Association of American Medical Colleges, all those have been out there a lot. They all come down to the same things. They say masks, and they say cohort groups and distancing, right? The hybrid plan allows us to do that, so I tend to lean that way. Obviously, we want our kids back as much as we can face-to-face, and when that's doable, by all means, that's what we want. But they do continue to quote those things. I'm hopeful about the vaccine, but we know that's going to be 4 to 5 weeks. Even from the day you get the first shot, it's 4 to 5 weeks before it's really effective. So that makes it difficult. And I know we're starting to look at that 5% number and say, is that really the best number? Yeah, it probably is, but we're also running out of patience. In the sense that at some point we want kids back in schools. And so how long do you let that go? But it's important to remember those numbers are somewhat arbitrary, right? That there's nothing magical about 10. It's not that 10.1 is bad and 9.9 is safe. It's that 0 is great, higher is worse. And so we've got to try to find a number that allows us to get some kids back in classrooms. Does it need to be raised above 5? It might. We start getting to those 10s and that scares me. But again, this data stuff is all difficult, and it's something we continue to work with. The other thing I want to point out that I don't think we talk a lot about is even in this face-to-face mode, when we bring kids back in a hybrid or we bring them back all day, masked in rows is not the way we learn, right? It's not the way these kids pull the stuff off. It is, teachers will do the best they can with that situation, but it's not great teaching and learning. It's the best we have at this moment, but it's important to remember that's still difficult, that it's not, that going back face-to-face isn't going back to rich, meaningful learning. It's going back to sort of a bare bones level of trying to get kids back in schools because we know they need some of that socialization. But we have to continue to work with that. So when we talk about like quality of learning and we start to put times on that, we also have to remember that, if they take the reading block home, that actually might be better. If they take some of the video work home, that actually might be better, and allow that concentrated time to be, if we go to a hybrid, allow that concentrated time to be rich interaction and meaningful learning. And then they do the other pieces that they often do in classrooms that don't need as much interaction. They do those things in the asynchronous time. So the asynchronous time becomes the support structure that gets then anchored by that more meaningful, shorter time where they have face-to-face with teachers. And the third point I would make is, this is coming from me when Steve, I think you put in there that there's some data that suggests that if we focus on math and ELA, science and social studies will take care of itself. You knew that was going to bring my hackles up, man. And I get it. In the short term, I can live with the math and ELA focus. I really can. I know that we need kids to have core math skills, and they need to be able to speak and write and read and use the English language effectively. So I'm all for that. I can live with that in the short term. But I will always push back that I think the more we can integrate science and social studies to give engagement and to make that math and that ELA meaningful and not isolated, I can give you an enormous amount of data that suggests that PBL model, that problem-based learning, that integrated model that focuses on science and social studies is where we really need kids. So I get it. I'm not really complaining about that. in the short term, I can live with it, but let's keep watch for that. I'm always gonna push back on that, man. I want that science and social studies engagement. So
Well said. Well
I think that's enough of my time. I'll shut up. Any questions for me? I don't think so.
I asked for 6 hours of science, but everybody else said no, Mike. So I just want to get that on the record.
I can make a case for it, man. I got all kinds of data. Just let me throw it at you.
John, you made me say that, John. What are you talking
don't make me go Pat Shearer on you. Pull a PowerPoint out.
You're going to get Nell Duke in here to drag us out by our ears talking about literacy and science, right?
I got Nell Duke stickers on my laptop, man. I can bring them out. So all right. That's enough for me. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. We are now going to move to Jeanette McDonald.
Hi, thanks. Lots of questions have already been asked and answered, but I do have a few more. And thanks for bringing up the whole science issue. John, I'm on ICC. I don't remember that 6-hour thing coming up.
Private conversation with it.
Anyway, okay. One of the things I'm concerned about with the hybrid is at the high school level, if you have a cohort A, for instance, that shows up in the morning. Well, first of all, those poor kids have to get up early every morning now, but it's actually going to be better for them because they get their assignments, they can go home, they have time to work. The PM group, I really don't see too many of them waking up early to start their asynchronous work. So look, I see that as problematic, quite frankly. Yeah. And the other thing that I see as problematic is contact time with a teacher for AP kids. There are some standards that have to be met, and I'm not sure this will cover that for them. So that might need to be looked into a little bit more. Mike Darga, do you have any idea how many teachers, because I think we can all pretty much agree that the students are at less risk than the adults, okay, when going back. Any idea how many teachers may not return if we go full face-to-face?
So actually, we'll be putting out a new survey just to the staff. We were waiting for today's meeting to put that out there to say, hey, listen, now that this has been shared, I shared this entire presentation with the entire, all of our employees, the teachers included, of course. So now that they've read this plan, they know that there's two different options most likely headed our way based on these plans. Where do they stand? We do know we still have a very small handful of teachers, 6 to 8 teachers at this point that I believe are still out on a leave. That doesn't mean that, after the survey goes out and they know now that they may be coming back relatively soon, whether it's in person or even a hybrid, we will gather more data to find out who else may, opt to then take a leave. And of course that will play, a part also on staffing.
So there's 6 to 8 that are currently out, even though we're full remote.
Well, that we anticipate will return back to their leave. So even though those teachers are teaching, and when we return back, we know that we have between 6 and 8, and that might be on the little high end. That may finish out the year on a leave currently.
Yeah, Miss Grant contacted the elementary teachers, and again, there might be some that go on, but I think there were 3 that said that they were going to maintain their leave with 1 on the fence.
Okay. All right. And I know since I first heard some buzz about this 3-foot distancing, I watched Whitmer's press conference. I didn't hear it there. I've looked up some resources that I have checked in. I haven't seen it anywhere. So could you please give me?
I'll put it up right now while you're talking, Ms. McDonald.
It's in your board packet, Jeanette.
Okay. All right. Well, I know it says it in there, but I just didn't know where it came from. Okay. Thank you.
It's on the michigan.gov website, Jeanette.
Okay. Thank you. And let's see, AP contact time leaves. Dr. Sokol. Is he still with us?
Yes.
Okay.
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you. I just have a question because, the comments that come in that were already presented, the people are talking about the emotional distress of their students. Have parents been reaching out to our social workers and counselors, et cetera? Is any of that tracked?
Yes, yes. The social workers had sent out a survey to the community. There will be 2 additional surveys sent out throughout the rest of the school year. And it includes resources, contact information. And so our social workers and counselors have identified specific students and families that need additional support.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's aware of the resources that we have. Okay.
Yep.
So that's good. Thank you. Let's see, I talked about instructional time. The whole idea of latchkey at the elementary, I guess, I mean, I'll talk to you more about it tomorrow, Mr. Darga, but if we didn't consider it latchkey, but just like drop-in centers where kids could work on their asynchronous work, you know, until their class time was picked up. There you go. Thank you. Minimum. Okay. 3 feet. Okay, thank you. You know, I'm just thinking maybe that could be a way of using some of our staff that maybe have to be on leave where they could, you know, be available. I see it working especially well at the elementary level, you know, where, you know, there's a lot of flexibility with certification, of course. But, you know, I mean, just as an idea, that's something that we talked about it before, having places for kids that parents are working and they'd be supervised there, but then have a remote teacher to help them if they were stuck on some of their work or whatever. So, I mean, just as an idea. All right. I think that's about it. I'm watching very carefully for when these vaccines are going to be rolling out and available. So that'll be interesting. Do you have a sense how many teachers, you did the survey, right, Mike? About how many teachers would take the vaccine at this point?
And Barb can give us an updated number. Earlier this morning, it was about 80% of those who had responded. That was before 4 p.m. Of staff were looking to take the vaccine. That number obviously is beyond 4 now. Barb probably has updated numbers, and we'll be sending those over to Wayne County Health Department.
Okay, 80% is pretty good. All right, thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. And now we will go to Sarah Flipiak.
One of the best things about going last is everybody, or one of the worst things is everybody asks all the good questions. Is there, with the hybrid plan, is there an option to switch from AM to PM or vice versa if it absolutely doesn't suit you? I mean, I know there's lots of people out there who have, you know, I grew up with my mom working days and my dad working afternoons. I mean, is there any consideration were we to move to the hybrid model for families who have much preferred and much better options available to them, or much timeframes that are better for them?
You know, we're still working through. I'm not muted. Okay. I'm sorry, I thought I was muted. We're still working through, and it's something that I've been talking with the admin team, and we've also looked at some of the other schools and their letters and what they put out to their communities. You know, at first glance, we're looking to make it pretty much a straight cut, but of course, there's always extenuating circumstances depending on, you know, whether it's a parent work schedule or something like that. But we really are going to try to stand pretty firm on when we set out our you know, our schedule, whatever that may be. We'll be sticking to that schedule for the most part.
Okay, and are teachers working at home or at school on Wednesday with that hybrid plan?
I think at home.
Everybody's remote on Wednesdays. Are they working from home or school?
They're at home. They are at home because they're also doing the deep clean throughout that day. There have been teachers who you know really prefer to work from the classroom setting. They've worked with the custodial crew to find out the actual schedule where they'll be at within that building. So we've actually had some teachers who've been very creative on kind of rescheduling that time frame. But a lot of our teachers actually do report to the buildings on a daily basis, you know, and work from the classroom setting.
Cool. I definitely share Jeanette's concern about staffing. I'd like to hear more about that. And just as a comment, I think that there's still like those few moving pieces out there in terms of what is Wayne County going to put out a schedule? Are they going to tell us when you can get vaccines? I know that's all the talk everywhere right now. And for me personally, I'm glad we're not voting on this tonight because I feel like there's much more information to be had before we make this decision, particularly in regards to the vaccination schedules and when that's going to happen. I'd also just like to see if the rates continue to decline as well. So, but thank you. That's all I have for right now.
Thank you.
All right. I really appreciate everybody. I feel like we've kind of pushed this around quite a bit and asked a bunch of much needed questions. I don't feel we need to go back around, but I just want to make sure that nobody has some burning question that came up.
I just have one quick one, Dr. Jen.
Absolutely.
Mr. Darga mentioned there were 6 to 8 out on leave, and that may continue. But back in October, we had the same number, I assume, and we were sufficiently staffed.
Yeah. The numbers did rise back then, but it was for multiple reasons. At one point, I believe there was almost 18 different teachers that were out on a leave at some point. And it was getting a bit tricky with some of the staffing issues. And some of our principals could probably even talk to you about some of the concerns. We had principals in and out of classrooms all day long. So it was very tricky. We were getting to that point. And actually, even in November, when the Wayne County Health Department sent out their letter that they were looking for schools to go remote, I was actually, we had just gone remote ourselves at that time, but we did have staffing concerns at that time as well.
And then to Jeanette's point, where cohort B doesn't get enough time in the morning, they may not be waking up. I can see the cohort A students as well getting up early, going to school, and coming home and dozing off for a couple of hours. Just the opposite effect.
I agree.
Not in my house, but in other houses.
Right. All right.
Thank you, Stephen. I saw Laura had her hand up too.
I did, thanks. I just, in the consideration of the numbers possibly changing the range, is there any consideration of not looking at Wayne County and possibly just focusing more locally, like using the Allen Park numbers?
So it's a little bit more difficult, but actually we are able to get those numbers from the governor. I'm sorry, the mayor here in Allen Park. She also breaks down the data and gets just Allen Park numbers also, and we can then turn them over and look at that. I'm always willing to look at numbers a little bit differently to see. And again, I think it's important that when we come together again within the next couple week or so, or 10 to 12 days, I do think we need to call a special meeting to come together as a group and talk about these. I think there needs to be a larger discussion on the numbers. I see exactly where you're coming from, Laura. I also really value Mr. Klein and his thought process. Mike and I talked earlier on the phone today, and we stuck really hard with the 5%. We thought that was very doable. And at that time, if you guys all recall, and I know some of our people that are kind of listening in, Ann Arbor chose 3%, Ann Arbor Public Schools. And so with a very large school system, and they chose 3%. We went with 5%. We were very happy with 5%. To make a jump to 10% is light years of a jump. I mean, that's huge, and it's very difficult to be in our situations as district leaders to say literally within a couple of weeks, hey, we just put you remote because it was more than 5%, but now, hey, we're at 9.8. Let's come back. That's a rough decision, especially as Sarah pointed out. The vaccines hasn't even started yet. And we all know, like we said, it's 4 to 5 weeks out. So there are a lot of moving parts. I'm very happy that we are continuing to look at the data. We're continuing to work together as a team and talk this through. There are no perfect programs, but I do think we can create a perfect program for Allen Park.
I'll just keep going just to make sure. Perfect program. I got to write that down because you just made me think of something. Sorry, I'm trying to do 2 things at once. Okay, but I'll just want to make sure, since Steve and Laura. Mike, did you have anything else?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks.
Thank you. Jeanette, did you have anything else?
I had a question just come in from an elementary parent, actually, who asked if we would give any consideration we had about a 50-50 split between those who wanted face-to-face and those who wanted some form of a hybrid. If perhaps one classroom at each grade level could consider going hybrid for those students that, you know, are maybe more medically fragile. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. Yeah, I like it, and I appreciate the parent, you know, sharing that. It's definitely something we'll bring back to the admin team and discuss, you know, how that would work. Because of course, you take one person out, you know, and again, it's about class sizes. So we definitely will look into it. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, the big drawback to that at this time of year is, you know, it would in some instances require a teacher change.
Right.
You know, so I mean, that to me is the biggest thing, because, you know, those relationships have been and are being constantly groomed. So, but that said, you know, there might be some teachers who could see themselves clear of not taking the leave with a smaller class size. So just something to think about. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Jennifer.
Oh, you're okay, Laura. Do you have a third?
Oh my gosh. What's that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It was a question about, I laughed and then I forgot what my question was. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Yeah, I'll just pass for right now. Oh no, I remembered. There are holes in the hybrid plan. There was a hybrid committee. Then there was another committee that finalized this plan without members of the hybrid committee. The holes that need to be filled, will everyone reconvene as a committee to fill the holes, or will it just stay where it is right now?
No, it definitely has to go back. You know,
Okay.
I mean, you know, yeah, we want to make sure, you know, and we were talking with several of the committee members throughout today, whether via text and email, you know, to make sure that we had better understandings before tonight's meeting. So we'll definitely bring these back. You know, the whole idea again that, you know, administratively we can create these plans and tweak these plans, but the reality is it gets done in the classroom. So we want to make sure that the teachers are also on board to make sure that this rolls out smooth, whichever direction we go.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. And then Sarah, did you have anything else to add? No, she shakes her head. All right. I just want to say, yeah, this is an insanely tough decision. You guys bring up so many good points. Like for me, I'm thinking, what's my kid going to be doing now in the AM or the PM, right? Like that's so much less instruction time, less education. So it's definitely difficult. I heard Laura say, you know, she stated the kids not wanting to go back. You know, what are we going to do for them? And how can we make them happy? And I feel that, I really do. But I also feel that there's been this huge group that's wanted to go back since day one. They haven't gone back either, you know? So, I mean, it's like, you're at a no-win situation, right? I don't know how to, there's no way to make everybody happy, I feel like. But I feel like you said, Mr. Darga, we're trying to do what's best to make a perfect program for us. And do the best we can for Allen Park. And I like that you put, Mr. Darga, that based on like our plans, right? Like this is us, like Allen Park. So I really do appreciate that. I know I keep looking at other districts, right? I know we all keep looking at other districts, especially around us. But I do know that we are different. I do know that we are special, and I really do appreciate that. I would like to obviously move on, but before we move on, can we make a meeting date so that we can come back? So that way our teachers and our parents are prepared. Like say we're coming back on the 25th, that's close. We want to make sure our parents and our teachers are prepared for that.
So yeah, and again, you know, it's up to the board, but you know, we can always throw out dates of Wednesday the 20th. I would like to note, you know, that I think Thursday the 21st is getting a little bit late.
I think so too.
But I also think it's very important, and I know we have a lot of teachers, as well as parents, watching and monitoring. They know that we're going to be making a second meeting. But I also think, and I know they already have done this, but they've already made those extra plans. Like if you're a teacher, start preparing to go back into class by the 25th. I mean, the reality is if the board adopted a hybrid plan, that could roll out. If we adopt a different scenario for COVID Act now with a different band of times, that could roll out also. It doesn't mean we'll go back to 25th, but I think people should be prepared to be in the classroom the 25th, or to know that you might have a different schedule, AM, PM schedule. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I think it's always smart to be prepared.
I really do appreciate that. Yes. And before we're done tonight, I would really like to make sure that we get that meeting on the books so that we can get our people ready. So I appreciate that. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is old business. Back to you, Mr. Darga.
Very good. Extended COVID-19 learning plan to reconfirm instructional delivery plan. Since the extended COVID-19 learning plan was approved, the board must meet to reconfirm delivery instructions, solicit public comment on how instruction is going to be delivered, and publicly announce weekly two-way interaction rates every 30 days. Wayne County community spread level, Allen Park is still risk level is AE. COVID positivity test rate is at 11.2%. COVID-19 Act Now data is based on a 7-day rolling average. However, the district had established the use of a 14-day rolling average and to align with the CDC guidelines recommending a 14-day quarantine. In December, the CDC issued a new quarantine guidelines for quarantine 7 days with a 2 negative tests or a 10-day quarantine. Based on this change, the district is recommending to alter monitoring the positivity rate to a 7-day rolling average. Since there is no evidence of spread within the school, the board may wish to further discuss and make an informed decision at a later date in regard to setting a new threshold and possibly set bans for modes of instruction. Positivity test rate for all students who work remotely, positivity rate for students in person, positivity rate if using the hybrid model are all examples. Allen Park Public Schools mitigation plan. Preparedness plans were reviewed by Wayne County Department of Health and Human Services. I'm proud to say that Allen Park Public Schools received a perfect 100% passing score. Our weekly engagement percentage reports, two-way communications, and attendance. The Board of Education must meet every 30 days to reconfirm the instructional delivery plan. The instructional delivery plan can be revisited more frequently than the 30-day period if necessary and desired. There is a regularly scheduled meeting on January 25th, but the board may also schedule a special meeting prior to this date should we learn more about staff vaccinations, wish to alter the positivity rate, and or further consider hybrid or full face-to-face return. The suggested motion that the Allen Park Board of Education reconfirm the mode of instruction, which includes the continuation of remote learning while monitoring the 7-day rolling average for Wayne County, utilizing the COVID Act Now site for 7 consecutive days at a positivity rate of less than 5% for a safe return to in-person instruction for the COVID-19 extended learning plan. The Board of Education will reconfirm how instruction will be delivered every 30 days.
Do I have a motion, anyone?
Yeah, I'll move.
Support.
Support.
Thank you. Are there any discussions? I'm going to go around real quick. We are going to start this time with Sarah Flipiak.
Yeah, I'm definitely in support of that if we're going to have another meeting next week. That's how I'm in support of that. I don't want to continue the remote plan for 30 more days without a meeting on the books next week. I won't vote for that unless there's a date set.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Jeanette McDonald.
I agree with Sarah. I'd like the data in the books and for this conversation and see where we end up.
Thank you, Jeanette. Mike Klein.
Yeah, I said it before, I like all you guys, and Steve and Laura, you seem great. I'll be as often as you want. So I'm on board for next week. I totally agree. Good point, Sarah.
Laura Lukey.
I'm fine with what everybody else just said. Thanks.
Steve Martin.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with all the rest of the board as well to meet and discuss the data points.
Thank you. All right. So, Mr. Durga, it sounds like the board would like to have a special meeting. If you could help us with that, please.
Yes, yeah, and I'll have, we'll ask Barb to assist us, but that's, we don't have to take a vote on that. That's something we post, and we'll post that on our website, and of course, everybody watching. But if we look at January the 20th, it's a Wednesday evening. We'll then start at 7 p.m. and we'll host a special board meeting. So January 20th at 7 p.m. and we'll make sure we get that posted.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So as the motion stands now, it is the motion that Mr. Darga just read, obviously with a special meeting on January 20th at 7 p.m. to further discuss. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it looks like it passes.
Before we go on with special meetings, if the board wishes, it doesn't have to be at 7 p.m. We can always move it up to 6 p.m. If people's schedules allowed. So it's up to you guys, but something to consider as well.
And still remote as well. I'm sorry, still remote as well.
It would be remote. That's correct.
Yeah, not being able to predict the amount of people. I understand that.
Right. And the other thing I'd like to do before I move on into the introduction of business, I would like to thank all of our building administrators and Dr. Sokol for joining us this evening. Took time out of their day. It meant a lot to me, but it was very important, and they wanted to be a part of the process. I thought they did an excellent job answering questions. And again, if needed, I'm more than happy to invite them back to the special meeting to continue this dialogue. I think it's important. I think that gives us time to meet with our staffs. We've got our hybrid committee members in each of the buildings. We can bring this back, and we can also, give updates there too. This will be more, it's especially more of a workshop model kind of a meeting. We still will follow the same format, but again, it'll be a little bit more casual dialogue on how to proceed, with creating this plan. So I will definitely invite the admin team back. But I do want to say thank you for joining us. And if they wish to go ahead and sign out at this time, again, thank you, and I appreciate your time this evening.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much.
Introduction of new business.
Yes, thank you.
Designation signatories, general fund, activity fund, cafeteria fund, capital projects fund, payroll, debt, and investments. The president and treasurer of the board should be designated signatories for the general fund, activity fund, capital projects fund, as well as payroll, debt, and investments. The suggested motion that the following be designated signatories for the Allen Park School District: President Gordon A. Miller and Treasurer Dr. Jennifer Warren for the general fund, activity fund, capital projects fund, payroll, debt, and investments.
I'll move.
Support.
Thank you. We have motion and support. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, that brings us back to you, Mr. Dargo, with superintendent's reports.
We still have one more. Number 2, appointment of legal counsel. We have been pleased with the legal services of Keller and Toma Law for personnel and student family related issues. Additionally, we have utilized the Troon Law Firm PC for all special education issues, finance matters, and public elections. At this time, I am recommending that the district utilize the services of both firms. Suggested motion that the law firm of Keller, Toma Law, and True Law Firm PC be utilized by the district for legal services during the 2021, and further, that the superintendent of school be authorized to exercise his discretion in utilizing the services of legal counsel based on the legal expertise needed in each instance.
Motion.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Do we have any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, now it for sure has passed, and now it is back to you, Mr. Darga, for superintendent.
Superintendent's report, January School Board Recognition Month. As a school community, we are grateful to have the support of a wonderful Board of Education here in Allen Park. These civic-minded individuals have taken on the responsibility of making many difficult decisions while keeping the best interests of students at the forefront. Please join me in thanking our school board members for their dedicated service. This year, we are accepting notes and cards at the board office at the corner of Vine and Moore. We'll make sure board members receive any handwritten cards or notes. More to come on this celebration at the next board meeting. Teacher professional development, January 15th. Just a reminder, there is no school. Per the district calendar, this Friday, students will not have school and teachers will be participating in full-day professional development. This professional development will be participating in full-day professional development. Oh, I read that already. Morning will be focused on the Google Meet in cooperation with Communications by Design. We have worked with this company for ongoing embedded professional development since June of 2020. In the afternoon, building-specific professional development will be provided aligned to the school and the district improvement plan. Please also note there is no school on Monday, January 18th, in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Virtual tutoring, Allen Park High School National Honor Society. This year, the Allen Park High School National Honor Society is offering virtual tutoring for all students that attend Allen Park Public Schools every Tuesday and Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. In order to reach out to these Zoom links, a Google site has been created. Students must use their school email account in order to access the Google site. Information has gone out to the AP families through principals' newsletters. We also have a Cultural Competence Club, which is the C3 at Benny. Benny's school social workers, Erica Seville, has invited all Bobcats to join this new club remotely for now, where students will learn about culture and ethnicity, disabilities, both physical and cognitive, inclusion, and more. And also our PTA, PTSA Council. Reflections, a celebration of student artists. Founders Day celebration, virtual cookbook for senior scholarships. The district's PTA, PTSA leadership has been busy planning creative events to recognize and celebrate Allen Park students, hardworking staff, dedicated volunteers, and extraordinary business partners. Please watch your email, website, news postings, and Facebook to support our PTA and PTSAs. Funds generated from the Community Favorites e-cookbook will support scholarships for seniors.
Thank you so much, Mr. Darga. That would take us to you, I do believe, Dr. Tofelsky, for citizens' comments pertaining to non-agenda items.
I am ready to roll here. Let me give it one more refresh and then go from there. Okay, Kristen Chapman. Thank you to all the board members and teaching staff for your dedication during these difficult times. Thank you for keeping kids safe despite all the negativity you have received from the public. I know these decisions have not been easy for you. You still have a supporting crowd. Please keep the cool at Allen Park Middle School. The next comment is a comment without a last name, so I will not be reading it. Alex Wagner, I feel most parents that are suggesting in-school learning be instituted ASAP are doing so for their own wants, and that they more than likely are the red hat wearing type. What happened last time, they were rushed back. Ride the year out and start fresh next year. What we should be doing is discussing the middle school drop-off pickup situation. It's beyond brutal. Caitlin Wade, I feel there is no option available to the kids that need in-person learning. The hybrid plan is impossible for me to get my kids to and from school. We don't have the option to be a single income family, and I strongly feel you're not taking that into consideration. If they are going to be in school at all that day, why can't they be there a full day? The disruption of the half day is going to be an issue in itself. Why can't we just do full days? Half the school Monday and Tuesday in person, deep clean on Wednesday, the other half Thursday and Friday in person. I just feel our district is not thinking of kids and the gap in education that they will have. I am a school of choice parent. I chose to apply here because the district was one of the best. However, I am very disappointed in the way things are being handled. For the half-day hybrid model, what about families that work and cannot pick up and drop off in the middle of 4 days a week? Will there be an option for them to stay remote? That was Megan Sire. Melissa Tuccini, for full return to school, why won't busing be provided for secondary? It is extremely difficult for working parents to leave work and pick up a child at 2:30 in the afternoon. Drop off and pick up are highly congested to the point of being unsafe for walkers, and it is dangerous for our children to cross major roads to get home. I understand that if you are unable to address my concern during the meeting, but I'm sure some other parents have the same question. Thank you. Terry Mock, will the ASD classrooms at the secondary level be in school full time? I didn't see that. I didn't see the half-day schedule working very well for them. Michael Page, I know there are no perfect scenarios where everyone is satisfied, but I think 2 or 3 full days is better than a warm-up to a return to Monday through Friday full-time in person learning than 4 half days. Just my 2 cents. I hope we can get them back to school before March 1st. Thank you for your time. God bless. Megan Stapleton, children need to be in school learning. My 2nd grade student loved school. Now she is struggling, falling behind, and losing the love for learning. We're doing everything possible, but we all know students learn best in a learning environment, not they're home with siblings, pets, TV, parents, working, people doing, I'm sorry, I don't know what that word is. These poor early learners are going to be so low in reading and not make third grade reading law requirements. Do better, Allen Park. Rebecca Vasquez. The hybrid option is not plausible with working parents. Why are our kids not going back to school in person full time when the governor said by March 1st they should be? Megan Hilmer, I'm voicing my desire for face-to-face instruction to resume. With the district getting 100% on its COVID response plan, I feel my children will safely get the best education upon returning to the classroom in a full-time model. I appreciate the school board taking the time to listen to the plans, discuss, ask questions, and review feedback from individuals involved in the district. 4 half days are not going to be feasible for working parents. Will latchkey at the elementary level then allow the kids to their AM or PM school block and spend the other block at latchkey? My husband and I are both essential workers and have been working since this pandemic hit. We don't have the luxury of choosing to work from home. There's no way to get our son in school 4 days a week without having to jeopardize our jobs, and I'm sure this will be an issue for many other parents. Chris Klonowski. Chris, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name right. While I support getting the students back into school, I do not support the hybrid model proposals. This model seems to be created with the assumption that there is someone in every household to handle pickup or drop off in the middle of the day. It also seems like a logistic nightmare with motivation to keep students engaged throughout the day. Example, when they get home from school to start remote in the PM. I'm sure this will be decided without any input from the public. Please consider continuing the full in-person option. Thank you. Chris Chapman, what about transportation for these kids? Parents are going to need multiple various transportation with a post-secondary level instead of finding transportation 2 days a week. As a single parent that works Monday through Friday, I cannot get my kid to or from school in the middle of the day. I can't be the only parent that feels this way. Emma Anderson, will the kids have the same teachers they currently have? Marcel Dupuis, the board needs to set an end date. This is going on forever. Riverview Elementary has gone face to face the entire time. Last time I checked, there were no outbreaks there. I wish we had their leadership. Chris Johnson, the kids need to be back in school. Half days do not work for working parents. They need friends to be and this is taking a toll on emotions. My child struggles every day and it's frustrating. What are you going to do about the state reading rule for the second graders? This is not their fault. Rebecca Rohde, I want to know why you plan on making a decision going back just 5 days before they return. Parents have the right to plan just like our teachers. I understand parents want our kids back in school, but we need to ensure safety. If they have to be 6 feet apart just to eat, how can they safely go back? If they have to be 6 feet apart just to eat, how can they safely go back? But that is not possible. Why are we not further along on a plan since this has been an issue since last March? Elizabeth Purdy. Please consider the students left on their own devices on Edgenuity. They've been completely abandoned in all of this on a horrible program that is teaching them nothing but how to be stressed and receive no support. I have a junior with an AP English class who does not feel prepared in any way for the upcoming AP exam and has received no direct instruction for what to expect on the exam as he would have received from his Allen Park teachers. This mess is now going to have direct negative effects on his college aspirations. This program has not been a fair substitute for in-person learning. Why can't our children go remotely with human Allen Park teachers? Angela Pavlik, please continue to look at the Trenton model as a possible solution, especially at the secondary level. We've been virtual and would prefer a remote option. Please don't forget the virtual kids. We have no face-to-face time. It's been very difficult. Megan Stapleton, look at the data better from the schools who are in person in the county. So many schools have successful full day programs that have been running since day one. The governor and medical experts say it themselves, and they are not my favorite. Make better choices. How much quality learning will these kids get from a half-day instruction? Once they get unpacked and settled in, it will be about time to leave. They need to move and breaks and this and that. It will not be quality instruction time. And that's it. Thanks to everybody who submitted a comment.
Thank you so much, Jen, for reading all of those. And once again, yes, thank you for everyone who has submitted a comment. We definitely are listening. So now we are going to go to reports of officers, and I am going to start with Jeanette McDonald this time.
All right. Well, first of all, congratulations to our new board members and also to our returning board members. It's so nice to be back together as a group. So congratulations on that. Also, congratulations to our 2 new hires, Brittany Ashley and Amy Hayden. welcome. I know one is changing positions, so she's not brand new to Allen Park, but, congratulations. I guess I just would like to thank everybody for their hard work and thoughtful questions and approach to this returning to school. Even as a board, we have some people with very strong opinions and sentiments on this. It is not an easy task. None of us live in a bubble, and we're hearing things from all different angles. We wish we had the perfect answer and a perfect scenario to address everything, but we don't. So the bottom line is we have to keep everybody as safe as we can. Teachers, students, administrators, everybody. So hopefully the vaccine will help to lighten some of that up, and hopefully, before the end of this school year, we can begin to see a return to normal in some form or fashion. So thanks everybody for checking in, and I look forward to meeting on the 20th.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. We'll go to Mike Klein next.
Jeanette, that was well said. Welcome, Laura and Steve. It's great to have you on the team. Welcome back, Sarah and Jen and Gordon. So it's nice to have colleagues as dedicated as you folks. Finally, just thank you to the whole educational community, and that's really everybody involved, right? That's families, staff, students. It's anybody connected to this work. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your grace. It's a difficult time. Answers are hard, and none of them are easy, and none of them are perfect. So thank you. We'll continue to strive and work forward, and hopefully we'll come out of this thing sometime soon. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Mike. Sarah Flipiak.
Of course, congratulations to the new board members. Welcome. It's a interesting time to be in public service, that's for sure. I also just want to welcome the new employees. I too have a child here, a middle schooler working on the computer each day, and a shout out to all of her teachers and all the teachers in the district. I can hear you in the background, and you guys are doing amazing things. And when I check over her work, it's just outstanding, the work and the way teachers have changed what they do to make this time easier on kids. I'm hoping that we can get together on the 20th and come up with the next step for Allen Park Public Schools. And I hope in the meantime, everyone has a great week.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Laura Lukey.
Hi, thank you. I would like to thank my family, my friends, supporters for all their confidence in me and supporting me through the election. I am very proud and humbled to have joined the ranks of these upstanding individuals here, and I'm very much looking forward to working with everybody. Everyone has been so kind and gracious and welcoming, and I just truly appreciate it so much. Congratulations to the new hires. I want to say congratulations to the Founder Day winners. That's very exciting. And with the Founders Day, I just have to give a shout out to the PTSA people that make all the wonderful things happen. They do so much. There are so many people that probably don't even realize they were mentoring me over the past years. You know, Sandy Winkler, Ms. Burgess, I can go on and on, Denise Crank, Jen Jacobs, Kelly Carey. There's just a whole list of actually a small group of people that make so many amazing things happen. I don't know the other elementary PTAs, so my apologies to them. I'm sure they're amazingly wonderful as well. Support your PTSAs. I want to say, and thank you to everyone that helped get that 100% on the APPS score. That was amazing. Everybody worked so hard. I don't know, honestly, how anyone could work harder to bring the buildings up to safety levels. We're not magicians. I know making spaces larger would be it. But aside from that, it's amazing the tremendous amount of time and work that has gone into everything to make the building safe. And oh, can't leave this out. I have to say congratulations and good luck to the divers that are going to states on Friday, Amelia Lukey and Amanda Abraham. Thank you. That's it.
I'm assuming that Lukey is your kid. Congratulations to you, moms and dads, too. All right, Steve Martin.
Yeah. So as Laura mentioned, thanks for all the well wishes and the welcoming. It's much appreciated. Thanks to all those that supported me through the election. It's humbling and quite an honor to be on the team and in the group. And I mentioned to Mike in our meet and greet, well, I've met Mike before, but you know, I've been in some stressful situations and deadlines at work, but this to me, you know, the butterflies and the anticipation here are really a little bit high because of what's at stake here, and that's our kids and their future. So that means a lot to me. So appreciate all the support. Congratulations to all the Founders Day winners. One of my daughter's teachers, I have to give a shout out to him as well, Mr. Lloyd. It's, as Sarah mentioned, tough for the kids to, or the teachers to keep attention while they're in the classroom, much less virtual, but he does a great rendition of Bob Dylan to keep the kids' attention. So congratulations to everybody. I know in several of the comments, everyone wanting to come back. I see the stress from all sides here, you know, the student stress. I see someone mentioned the AP exams. I know my daughter's stressing about that, and she's starting to look into colleges. I see the stress from my wife, who are they doing enough? So, and I know they're working around the clock. I see work groups formed, meetings all hours of the night. So thanks to all the teachers and the students and the families. Congratulations to the new hires as well. Great to have great people hired on board. I'm looking forward to next week. I, as Laura mentioned, revisiting the data point outside of Wayne County. I think that might expand that ability to get back in school. I think we would see that 5% probably, or the 11.2% maybe drop if it were just Allen Park. So I would too be interested in revisiting the Trenton model as well. It's no easy task, but I do see the stress. And like Dr. Jen said, we've been out of school for a year. I think it's really important to get the kids back in class and get some sort of stability. And the longer we push it off, we'll be in September next year. So, but again, thanks to everybody, and I appreciate the support. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Exactly what all of you guys said, Jeanette and Mike. I loved your sentiments too, especially when Mike said that we're just blessed to be trying to get through this all together. And that is without a doubt. Jeanette said, we have strong opinions on this team, but we still all manage to work together, and it's just wonderful. Because that's the good thing, right? You want different opinions and strong opinions because it makes us work so well together. And I know exactly what she meant by that. So I really appreciate that. It was a joke when myself, Sarah, and Gordon were running, and all of this was coming up, and what do we do? And it's going back to school, and I'm like, I almost want to just take the signs, because it's very stressful. It's very hard. We are doing this, what is best for our children, without a doubt. That is the forefront of every one of our minds, and I know that. So it is definitely there. And it's definitely not what we all thought we'd sign up for originally when we first started this task. Steve and Laura, I swear it gets much better than this. You're not so stressed after the pandemic. So that's always a good thing. And yes, congratulations to all the winners. And one of my son's teachers is also there, which is Mrs. Serrano. And she's killing it, man. Just like Sarah said, she can hear the teachers in the background. I'm the same way, right? All day long, I hear these, well, when I'm not at work, I hear these teachers, and rooting my kid on, cheering my kid on. It's amazing, and them taking the time to be like, okay, so my son Logan has Mrs. Serrano, right? So, okay, Logan, let's look at this a different way. Okay, you're not seeing it that way. Let's look at it a different way. And she's even getting that through online. And I really do appreciate that. I know as an online educator right now myself, that is insanely difficult. So I appreciate all of you. My kid yells for Mrs. Chimenti 1,800 times a day. My middle kid. And without a doubt, at the end of every day, my youngest kid says, "I love you, Miss Page," every single day. So, I mean, that's just right here. So I know you educators are out there doing an amazing job. And like my entire board says, or our entire board says, the Allen Park board says, we absolutely appreciate that. We just are in awe of all that you do. And we really appreciate all the teachers, all the staff, all the administrators, and just wanted to thank you. All right, so that brings us back to an adjournment. So all I have to say is all those in favor, right? Okay, so all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, it looks like we'll see you all on the 20th.
Bye, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Have a great week, everyone.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
You too.
Bye.